Hello, I'm Mirella Amato, Senior Business Development Manager for Beer at WSET, and I am here in Germany with my colleague and friend Markus, who is an educator for WSET, based here in Bamberg.
Yes.
Welcome, Markus.
Perfect. So cheers. Cheers.
Cheers. At WSET, we believe in accessibility, and that includes being able to pronounce beer styles in their original language. And that's why Markus is here. I have a few cue cards. Are you ready for some German pronunciation?
I'm ready.
Let's do it. Here we are, a classic German style.
Yeah, what a beautiful word. Weissbier.
Weissbier.
Weissbier. Yeah, that means Weiss is white and Bier means beer. So white beer. Classic beer, it means all the family of beers brewed with wheat because Weiss is also referring to the word of wheat. So it's both the color white and the grain wheat.
Fantastic. So here we have
Berliner Weisse.
Berliner Weisse.
Yes, Berliner Weisse. So it's the wheat beer, Weisse, from Berlin. That's the city. And it's a very special beer because it's a very old beer. It was recreated by some of the breweries in Berlin. It's brewed with a mixture of microorganisms, and also it has a huge part of wheat and even unmalted wheat, and also some barley. So, but it belongs to the family of wheat beers. That's why we call it Berliner Weisse.
And this beer is tart.
Yeah, it has some tartness, but it should be the level of a white wine, so not too much. Shouldn't be too extreme. Remember, people were sitting in huge beer gardens having liters of that, and you can only do that if it's drinkable.
Is it true that Napoleon Bonaparte called it the champagne of the North, or is that a myth?
We don't know, to be honest. It's a
Okay.
very nice story, and it could be because he did things like that, and we had a huge French population there. So it could be, and to be honest, if you experience it today, you will say the same. It's really like a champagne.
Very nice. On to another city here.
That's Gose.
Gose.
Gose. So this comes from a city that's called Goslar, and there is a river that's called Gose. And this river supplies the breweries in the city, and so it's called after that. The good thing is they were very successful, and so they exported the beer also to other cities. The biggest one was Leipzig, and there is also a Gose tradition. So that's why we nowadays have Gose associated with both Goslar, very original, not sour, and with Leipzig, where it turned sour because of the long journey.
Nice. And there's actually a Belgian style that has a similar name, pronounced differently and spelled differently, but let's take a moment to untangle that. So the Belgian style is Goes, and the German style is
Gose.
Goes.
And Gose. And also in the Gose we have salt and coriander, and in the Goose we don't.
That's true. Okay, we're still in wheat beers here with the Weizen.
Yeah, Hefeweizen.
Hefeweizen.
Yeah, Hefeweizen. So a long E, Hefe, not Hefe. And that means Hefe is yeast, and Weizen, we already had that, is wheat. So it's the beers that are made with yeast and wheat. Normally it's associated with the pale one, but there are also dark and brown ones.
Speaking of dark and brown ones.
Yeah, here we have the Dunkelweizen, or what we normally would say is Dunkles Weizen, because it's like a Weizen for Weizenbier, so Dunkles Weizenbier. And that means Weizenbier is again the wheat, and Dunkel means dark. So this is brewed with Munich malt or roasted malt, so we get into some darker color and also aroma.
Yeah, some chocolatey aromas, a little bit of toasted.
Coffee,
those
right, wonderful beers.
Dunkel aromas.
Yeah. Oh yes, beautiful one. It's called Kristallweizen.
Kristallweizen.
Yeah, Kristallweizen. Don't mix it up with crystal malt. Kristall means crystal clear, and that refers to a filtered wheat beer. That was very special because normally it's not filtered. But with the tradition, with the success of the Pilsner and the Helles beers in the 1950s and 60s, they also started to filter the wheat beer. And they called it at first champagne wheat beer, so Champagnerweizen. Problem was the French didn't like. So, you know, champagne, that's protected.
Yes.
And so they had to find another name. And so they said Kristallweizen. And you have both ideas. Sometimes it's like a normal wheat beer. So we have the banana, clove, phenolic, fruity character. But it's also possible to do it with a normal regular yeast, which produces no esters. And then it's more Kölsch-like. So it's very interesting.
But always brewed with wheat then, if it's called
Always
Weizen.
brewed with wheat. So their law is at least 50% plus one grainy thing, then it's perfect. So it must be more than 50%.
Still on wheat beers,
Weizenbock.
Weizenbock.
Weizenbock. So that means now Weizen, again, wheat, that's the grain. And Bock now refers to Bock beer, which is long story, but long story short, nowadays that stands for a stronger beer. So we are in a high alcohol, even sometimes very high. So it's a lot of alcohol because they simply use more grain, so more starch, more material in the end, higher alcohol beer, stronger beer. So a Bock beer can be wheat and can be other beers. We will come to that later on.
Yes, we will, because there's more styles to go.
Yeah.
Next.
Yeah, now we are still on the old beer styles. The wheat beer family is very old, but there's also another ale tradition in Germany, but this is made with barley, and this is called Altbier.
Altbier.
Altbier. Most of you will know, Alt simply means old. So, but it doesn't mean that it's an aged beer. It's a beer that's brewed according to the old tradition. And the old tradition in that area, we are around Düsseldorf, that is at the Rhine area, Cologne is close there. And it's like a brown ale, so that's the history behind, very close to what we know as a brown ale from Belgium or also from the British Islands. So this is an Altbier, and it's still made, and you find brown ones and also pale ones.
And these are usually from Düsseldorf, correct?
Yes, so the city is associated with it is Düsseldorf, but in opposite to the Kölsch and Cologne, where we'll come to in a moment, it's not protected. So also other breweries can do an Altbier.
Okay.
Outside Düsseldorf, in Kölsch, you have to be in Cologne.
Okay. On to our lagers now, and umlauts.
Yeah, it's the thing with the two dots. And here we have Märzen.
Märzen.
Märzen. And this refers to the month of March, which in German is März. And why? Because we have the brewing year in the old tradition, where it was cold enough to brew lagers, that started in September and ended in April. And so they did the regular beers in September and November and so on. But at the end of this short year, they brewed the beer stronger so that it had a longer shelf life in the summertime. So they had something for harvest and for the parties there. And these stronger beers were brewed in March and April, and they called it Märzen because of brew time in March. So that's the story.
Fantastic. I think it's time for you to quiz me now.
Yes, that will be great fun, and I have a very nice thing at the beginning.
Okay. All right. Here we go. Rauchbier Märzen.
Oh, that was perfect. Wonderful. Yeah, Rauchbier Märzen. So that's a long word, or it's two words to be honest. We already were talking about Märzen. So these were the stronger beers, but Rauchbier, that means smoky beer. And this is a tradition which is also very old, because before around 1800, all the beers on the continent were brewed with malt that was dried or kilned in smoky conditions, so smoky surroundings. And so it was all smoky beer. In this time, that was normal. Nowadays, it's special. And because of it being special, we now call it Rauchbier Märzen and not regular Märzen.
And other beers can be Rauch, right?
Yes, we can brew any beer with a smoky malt, so a malt that was dried in a smoky condition. And so you could even make a smoky Altbier or a smoky Kölsch or a smoky Pils or whatever. But normally in my hometown of Bamberg, that is more or less, there are two breweries, the only two on the planet, who kept the tradition alive, and they all, both of them, do the Rauchbier Märzen. So this is today more or less associated as the traditional Rauchbier, and that is that. But don't be confused. If you come there, you will definitely get also smoked beer, Bock beer, for example, or other smoked lagers, or smoked wheat, which is very, very interesting. Will the aromas.
Excellent. What's next?
Yes, let's continue. Here we go.
Pilsner.
Wonderful. Pilsner. Pilsner. Yeah, this is associated with a city. The name of the city is Pilsen, so almost like that. And there it originated. What is behind? Behind is the most successful beer in the world. So it started around the mid of the 19th century, and they developed a bright beer, a filtered beer, and a wonderful hoppy beer. That was totally new, unknown at that time, and it really conquered the world. And nowadays, 90 to 95% of every beer in the world is more or less a Pilsner.
I think we're heading towards some Pilsner-inspired beers, aren't we?
Of course,
Okay.
as it is always, if you have this idea, it spreads, and then they try to do the same, like
Kölsch.
yeah, Kölsch. So Kölsch refers, I already said, to the city of Cologne. So these beers have to be brewed inside the city borders. So it's a limited number of breweries doing it. What is behind Kölsch? It's their idea of a Pils, but they didn't have the cellars and the possibilities to cool it down during the fermentation. So they used their normal yeast, and this was the ale yeast. That's why Kölsch is still an ale, has also some estery components, and some of the beers are still made also with a part of wheat malt.
And Kölsch means from Köln in the
Yes.
same way that Pilsner means from
Yes.
Pilsen.
Very right. Yes, perfect. So like we had Berlin, now we have Köln, Cologne, and we had Pilsen, for example. Yeah.
So what were they brewing in Munich in the meantime?
Yeah. Look, here we have it.
Okay. Münchner Hell.
Yes, another umlaut, Münchner Hell, and as we had it, Münchner Hell refers to the city of München, which is in English Munich, so in Italian Monaco.
That's true, yeah.
Yeah, quite nice. Had a lot of different names. Beautiful city, close to the Alpine area, so also a lot of shops and things, so a nice place to go, and a lot of beers, a lot of brewing tradition. And of course, they also tried to cope with this new Pilsner thing. And all these Munich breweries came together and said, what do we do? They had only just something like a brown lager. And then they agreed, okay, let's do something like a Pils. What they couldn't change was their water, because we are in the end of the 19th century. So they had to use their water. It was quite hard, quite minerally. And that meant it wasn't possible to brew with the same amount of hops and the same fresh hops as we had it in the Pilsner. So it's less hoppy, but also very drinkable, very balanced. And so we have Münchner Hell as the traditional style, pale style of the city of Munich.
And I don't think we've covered Hell yet. So Münchner means from Munich, and Hell, of course, means pale or bright.
Yes,
right?
Sorry for that. It's very important because, as I said, the beers before were all brown. So this new color, also in the same time, people started to drink beer out of glasses. So first time they saw what they were drinking. And so this pale, clear thing was totally new, was fascinating. You can maybe imagine. And so Hell means pale. Münchner Hell was this new invention.
That's right. And then on the next card, we have Münchner Dunkel.
Yes, Münchner Dunkel. So Dunkel we already had, if you remember, with Dunkles Weizen. And so that means dark. And so it's a bit the opposite. We had a big change in maltings in Germany. So from just producing any malt, they started to do several varieties of malt. And one was a pale malt called Pilsner malt. And there was also a darker malt in terms of the result of the beer. And that was called Munich malt, so Münchner Malz. And that was used for the Munich Dunkel, Münchner Dunkel. And funny thing is that in each Münchner Dunkel, there's also a little of the Pilsner malt, and in each Münchner Hell is a little of the Munich malt. So but in general, that's malt based. So we have here a dark beer, Dunkel beer, chocolate aroma, also maybe some coffee, sometimes a bit sweet, very smooth, very round, great with a cake.
I love a Dunkel flavor. What's next?
Yeah, what's next? We are now into stronger beers.
Yeah, back to box. And this one is paler in color.
Yes.
So I'm going to say Helles Bock.
Helles Bock, or as we would say, Helles Bock beer, because normally we don't say Bock alone, we say Bock beer. So both of the terms we already had. So we had Helles because it's pale, and Bock because it's strong. So again, we are in high or very high in terms of the alcohol. Beautiful beer, dangerous beer, high drinkability, used for a lot of the festivities, for example. There are big events when they tap the first Bock beer of the season. And so be careful, but enjoy.
Nice.
Yeah.
And next we have Dunkles Bock or Dunkles Bock beer.
Perfect. Very good. Yeah, perfect. So this is same thing, Dunkles Bock or Dunkles Bockbier. And that's same thing. We had it, Dunkel for dark for the use of Munich malt and Bock for the stronger beer. Also, maybe we didn't talk already about the story behind Bock. This is also related to a city in Germany. The city name is Einbeck.
Einbeck.
Einbeck. That's more in the north of Germany, but they were very famous for producing strong beers. They were exporting it throughout the world in that time, so we are in the 16th century. And because they were so successful and the beers were so good, the Munich people liked to import that. And then they started recreating the thing themselves. And of course, they called it after the city they had it from. That was Einbeck. So it was Einbeck-Spier. And then with the time, it was shortened. So it got Beck-Spier. And in the end, it was Bock-Bier. So that's where this term Bock comes from. So nothing with the animal. Sometimes you have the Bock, which is
goat.
A goat.
Bock is a goat.
Yeah, male goat. On the labels, that's just fun, that's marketing, so it's related to the city of Einbeck. But great beers anyway, and I think we have one another.
Yeah, last one, Doppelbock.
Doppelbock. So maybe you have an idea about doppel, double, so more. That means even stronger, so we are definitely in the very high category. And these can be pale, these can be dark, so then we have a heller Doppelbock or helles Doppelbock beer, or dunkler Doppelbock, dunkles Doppelbock beer, or even Weizen Doppelbock. So all these beers can be doppelbocked, let's say it like this. And that means more malt, more alcohol, more taste, more intensity, but also more danger.
Mm-hmm. I think that's the last one for today. So whether you're studying for WSET or just beer in general, we hope that these have been helpful. It's certainly been fun. Thank you, Markus, for your time.
Thank you very much. And also have fun and cheers to our beers.
Cheers.